In the epic poem Jerusalem, or the Emanation of the Giant Albion, William Blake's character Los declares, "I must create a system, or be enslaved by another man's. I will not reason and compare. My business is to create." This quotation is often read as an anti-authoritarian statement of radical independence, and a feeling of defiance and rebellion is certainly palpable whenever these words are read or spoken. Los's refusal to reason and compare is usually interpreted as evidence of Blake's rejection of Enlightenment values based upon doctrines of reason. However, Blake's opposition to Enlightenment thinkers, particularly his unholy trinity of Newton, Bacon and Locke, has perhaps been overemphasised as evidence of his anti-systematicity. It is not that Blake rejects systems as such, but only another man's. Here in Jerusalem, the concept of a system is presented as having the potential to be individually liberating as well as enslaving, as is suggested by the emphasis on the word create. So what does it mean to create a system? And did Blake create his own? It is possible to say that Blake did create a system through his poetic corpus in two senses. Firstly, in the engraving process that he honed over many years in order to print and produce his illuminated poems. And secondly, in the symbolic system contained within his poetry. In regards to the latter, W.B. Yeats was the first Blake scholar to draw critical attention to this system, describing Blake as a symbolist who had to invent his symbols. He was a man crying out for a mythology and trying to make one because he could not find one to his hand. Yeats also prefaced his 1893 edition of Blake's work with an explication of Blake's so-called symbolic system. Elaborated from his work of the 1790s onwards, Blake's mythopoetic system is based around the figures of the four Zoas, their female emanations, and their fall from eternity into sexual division and generation. Blake's fixation on fourfold symmetry throughout his work demonstrates some effort to schematize and systematize ideas into a spatialized format. In terms of his production method, Blake developed his own distinct system of production, which enabled him to engrave his writing and visual designs at the same time into copper plates, which were then inked, coloured and printed individually plate by plate, and then bound into unique copies subject to considerable variation between print runs. Blake's highly personal method of production continually evolved from his adolescence and his apprenticeship to the engraver James Bezier, culminating in the visually stunning masterpieces in intaglio printing, Milton a Poem and Jerusalem some 30 years later. In a period of increasingly commercialised printing, Blake's practice emphatically rejects the standard systems of production and distribution of his day, offering instead an authentic and inalienable alternative over which he had almost complete control.